Welcome everybody, Don Giannetti, Lighting Essentials, and we're speaking today with James Eisele, a commercial photographer in West Palm Beach, Florida. And James has been Project 52 person for a while, and I'm just really excited about his progress and what he's doing. But James, how's the weather today in West Palm Beach?
It's lovely. We're at about 90 degrees. Looks like we may get some storms later, but it's clear for now. It's a nice day.
Well, we were talking just before the show about some upcoming gigs. You've got you're staying pretty busy there.
Yeah, it's as I said in one of our earlier emails, it's exciting and terrifying all at the same time. We I got back from Philadelphia on Sunday, did a shoot Monday morning for a local executive, did a shoot yesterday for an attorney, and met with a local jeweler about some other work. And tomorrow I will be shooting for a local ad agency, a little bug spray spot. And then Saturday I have a celebrity event to cover.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed about you up on the Facebook page is you don't have any problem jumping in to assist another photographer, especially photographers who may be a little bit farther down the road than you are. And I think that's a very cool way to learn.
Yeah, this is something interesting. I got involved in ASMP a few years back, and over the course of time, I've made it up to vice president of the local chapter. But I never took my listing down for assisting. And people ask me, is it worth it? And on top of everything else that ASMP offers, every single year I've been a member, I have made back my membership dues within the first 8 weeks by picking up an assisting gig for somebody coming in from out of town that needed somebody else with local knowledge. And they're always really happy to hear that I'm shooting as well, so I understand I'm not just a professional assistant. And sometimes I learn stuff, sometimes I teach stuff. And it's very cool.
Yeah, and has it opened any doors for you as well?
Uh, it has. It has, because I've gotten referrals from some of the photographers that I've worked with in the past that may have a small gig, and there just isn't enough budget for them to fly in from Atlanta or New York, and they'll pass it along. I almost got the gig to shoot for Sam Adams, but the art director overrode everybody, and they flew somebody down after all. But I saw your post about finding local resources, and that was one of the things that was a big deal. The Sam Adams gig absolutely required a 50 megapixel back. They would take nothing less. It was a real scramble to figure out who had one in town, who was willing to rent it, and would it be available on the days I needed it. It took about 2 days of hunting down to actually find one.
Wow.
And then we didn't need it after all, but it was a good exercise.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been. I mean, you've been doing this about 2 years, 3 years?
Uh, well, it's my experience is kind of all over the place, like everything else. When I was very young, my father was he was a computer guy, but he was very interested in photography. So we were lucky enough. By the time I was 11 years old, I was making my own prints in our darkroom in the basement, which was bigger than most bedrooms, and we were doing Cibachrome and everything else. So I had that background from the film days, and then life happened. I went off in another direction, and I came back to it about 2007. And at that time, I wasn't doing a lot of commercial stuff. I was shooting for the fun of shooting. It was more of a hobby. And one of the local studios had an open house, and they invited me in, and I got to shoot in the studio, and I was hooked immediately. I ended up taking a bunch of classes with them and going through some other courses. And that was maybe 2 years before I found Project 52. And I had already gotten a few jobs, but again, it was sort of part-time. I was construction superintendent, so I would fit things in nights and weekends and just try to hone my craft and remember all the stuff I had forgotten from when I was young. And then I found Project 52 by a complete accident. You started it about exactly the same time. I was looking for something to push myself creatively, and I saw all these 365-day projects, and I know myself. I'm not going to shoot one shot a day for 365 days.
I never made it either.
And then I saw Project 52. I went, well, one a week, that wouldn't be too bad. I think I could handle that. And so that was the very first year you offered it, and I jumped on board. Since then, it's been invaluable as far as there's plenty of resources to teach you how to shoot and composition and stuff like that, but there's very, very little about the business end of it. How do you get into it? How do you find clients? That sort of thing. And Miami, I'm sure Phoenix is the same way, and just about anywhere else. There's a whole lot of semi-pros out there bitching about there aren't any customers and they don't have any budgets and everybody wants me to shoot for free. But when you're shooting nights and weekends, you're going to get other people that are doing other things nights and weekends while they're trying to hold down a day job until their particular project takes off.
Mm-hmm.
Once I jumped into it with both feet and I was available during the day, during the week, there were a lot more customers.
Yes. Because
that's when people do business.
That's one of the things that always gets me riled up when I read these people going, well, there's no business and everybody wants you to shoot for free. And I'm thinking, well, who are you showing your book to? And the answer is they're going after the low-hanging fruit. Well, I was at a bar and the band was there, so I showed them I was a photographer and they wanted me to shoot for free. Well, yeah, you were at a bar. You weren't at an ad agency or a graphic designer where the album cover is being created. You were at a bar. And yeah, they wanted you to work for free. They're probably working for beers, you know. So, the real business is out there. And we all admit that it's not like it used to be, but it's never going back to what it used to be. And for those of us who wish that it was like it used to be, we have to understand that when I started the business in the early 70s, it wasn't like it was back in the early 60s.
Sure.
Unlimited budgets for things. I mean, my God, they wanted to do an ad for Smirnoff. They flew Bert Stern and his entire entourage to Egypt to take a picture of a glass in front of the pyramid. And the pyramid's out of focus. And you look at the shot today and go, I could do that in the studio with Photoshop in about an hour. But, it cost them, $75,000, $80,000, $90,000 to do it back in 62. That's $500,000 today. It's just phenomenal, the changes. So it's been quite interesting. I'm going to make you the presenter because I'd like you to take us through some of your favorite shots, and if they're shots you've done for clients, let us know a little bit how the shot went, all right?
Okay.
I'm going to make you the presenter right now, and you're coming up.
Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now.
I can see your screen. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm pretty much at the home page of my website. One of the things I added just recently under services was this heading, providing solutions. And what I did was go through some of the jobs I've done for clients, named who they were, and what the particular problem was, and how we got around it, how we solved it. So this Lymphoderm, they had contacted me. They make products for people suffering with lymphedemia, and they weren't sure what they wanted. They wanted something nice and bright, and I started talking to them about the ingredients. You know, how's it made? And said, well, seaweed's a big component. We take an extract from the seaweed. So I went to the only beach in Florida with rocks and found this green seaweed on the rocks, and set up a bunch of reflectors out there and shot 6 panels. These are all the headers for their website for the scrolling slideshow. This one has the seaweed on the rocks. There's another one in my main portfolio that has the water splashing up behind it, the ocean, stuff like that. The next one down is hip papers, which is a young guy had an idea to make 24 karat gold rolling papers. Had no idea how he wanted to market it. He wanted something classy and sophisticated, but he didn't want it to seem out of reach of the people that might actually buy it. So we picked this model together, and we came up with a bunch of stuff and settled on a series, including these 2 shots here. And there's a couple other shots on a dark background with the gold. And, that was a lot of fun because nobody was sure where it was going to end up when we started. But I was very happy with how everything turned out. And it boosted his sales by 20%, so he was very happy too. The Humana thing, I talked about that in Project 52 some. I had pitched to an ad agency, and they said they did a lot of work for Tenet Healthcare, and if I had more medical stuff I could show them, they'd really be interested. So I actually, during my construction days, built this doctor's office, and I contacted her, and she went, great. Humana just said they'll sponsor a billboard for us, but we need to provide the photos for it, and I was wondering who to call. So we actually shut the doctor's office down for 4 hours. I brought in a local actor to act as the patient, and we did about 300 shots of different doctor-patient interactions because the tagline was, our priority is doctor-patient relationships. So we tried to play off of that and get the doctor and the patient interacting in a bunch of different ways. And then there's the record company. And we're up to about 6,000 record titles and 3,000 other pieces of artwork. Some of them are prints, some of them are negatives. Everything's being digitized. And while it's literally just being a human Xerox machine, it adds $2,000 to $3,000 to the studio intake every month, which isn't bad.
Yep. I mean, and that's the nature of commercial photography. You know, is that a lot of the stuff that we do doesn't end up on the gallery walls or in the portfolio. We're commercial photographers. We have to satisfy the client that's bringing us the work, and many times that does not include ultra creative anything.
Right. Well, that finances you to be able to go out and shoot for magazines and stuff like that, and do what you really want to do, so that you can get cool, exciting stuff. The last one on the list here is Serena numero 28. And this was kind of neat because the owner actually found me by my website, and he contacted me from Milan, Italy, and they were opening a new location in Miami, and we coordinated everything with the manager in Miami, and then we rigged it up so that the owner could check everything out remotely from Italy and make sure that we got all the shots he needed. So that was kind of interesting. We did it while they were open. All the customers in the background are real customers.
Now, did you get model releases signed, etc.?
I assigned that to one of the waitresses, and they took care of it. I'm not using the images, so it was their job to get their releases for their use.
Got it.
Uh, there was enough budget to shoot. There wasn't enough budget to have 16 assistants going around and getting everybody's name and phone number. So as a way to keep the price down, I put that back on them to make sure that if they wanted to use them, they were going to need to talk to these people. And I provided them a kind of generic PDF, and they printed up a bunch of copies and went around and took care of it. Again, this is probably nothing I'd ever show in a portfolio, but for this, it was a good way to illustrate how we overcame obstacles of being two continents apart, making things happen the way they wanted them to happen. And then we were talking a little bit earlier before the break. I'm going to drag this one up. This is a good bit of what I do. It's kind of similar to what Eric does with the medical stuff, but they're bottles of lotion. Shoot brown bottles, cut them out of the background, and that's it. One of the other things that I've heard you talk with some of the other people about is the importance of having support at home. And Irene was talking about how supportive her husband was, and Eric about him and his wife sitting down and discussing where they were going to go with things. And I've been really, really lucky that my wife has been in the industry. She understands it. There isn't a huge jealousy factor when half a dozen scantily clad models walk into the studio. And a lot of times she'll act as kind of a director on the set. If we're not getting exactly what we want immediately, she'll jump in and kind of coach everybody and offer ideas. So she's been a huge help with that. And sometimes late at night when we're bored, we play with stuff just for fun. This was talcum powder. Seen the milk dresses and the water dresses, and we were trying to come up with something different. So that was the original shot in the studio about 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's what we came up with out of it. But you'll see her a lot in the stuff I do because she's here. She has fun with it.
And she was a professional model, right?
Yeah.
Is a professional model.
She was actually published in Vogue at the age of 13. And her father was the art director for Florsheim Shoes for years and years. So she's been around, all of it. Excuse me. These shots here, I was contacted by an ad agency, and they had a development that was going in west of town. It hadn't been built yet, but they needed lifestyle shots to convey kind of country family living. And they specifically asked to bring shots of people by the water and kids, and I have no kids in my portfolio. So my wife and I took her new bicycle down to the park, and we did some shots. We had 3 days before the meeting, and we put some stuff together so that we had things to show them that showed country living by the lake and stuff like that. And we managed to find a couple of kids while we were there and talked to their parents and asked if we could take some shots. everybody was real happy. We traded cards. I sent them copies of everything. Um, this girl rode this bike like 15 times before we just back and forth up and down the tank until we got kind of a good position and a happy smile on her face. And then this was just a kid that was there fishing. So in the end, it was really worked out well because I had 7 or 8 shots. I printed them big, took them to Costco and got 11 by 14s of them. And when the meeting was over, they asked if they could keep them. I told them, absolutely. So still waiting to hear back whether we got that job or not. But it was just one of those things, like your creative challenge is somebody tells you they have a job doing this and you don't have it, do something to make it happen. Try to better your chances rather than just walking in and go, oh, I don't really shoot kids, but I'd like you to hire me anyway.
Yeah, well, that you're taking charge, and that's what I like. You've got to take charge of the stuff that you want to do in this world because no one else is going to do it for you. And
no,
if you're told, hey, it would be great if you had such and such images in your book, then you've got really only 2 choices in front of you. Go make images like that so that you can show them, or not, or just don't do it and you don't get the job.
For sure you don't get the job.
Yeah, and you may not get the job even if you do it, but you're at least in the running for it, and at least you end up with some shots that you can use in your book for next time. We will never have everything that someone's looking for, but we can always take the time to add to our portfolio if there's something good on the other end for it.
Sure.
Excellent.
So I thought maybe we'd dive into some business stuff since you've been doing the 5-part business course. And just to give some of the other Project 52 people an idea of how I attack it, we talked about the agencies. And so what I've done is I set up an Excel spreadsheet. This is 49 agencies that I might like to work with within 25 miles of my studio.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I've set it up with email, phone number, contact person, name of the firm, physical address, and their website. And then I have a small section on the other side with notes. One of the things I do on my prospecting emails, number one, I go to all of their websites first and look at them and see if it's somebody I really want to work with. But I find I get a really good response rate if I mention something I saw on their website that impressed me. And it's usually just one sentence. I saw this project and liked it. I noticed you did this, something like that. It lets them know that I'm paying attention and it's not just a boilerplate. It's 3/4 boilerplate, but it doesn't appear as a boilerplate message.
Right.
And one of the things with once you make that list of all the places, you notice there's companies that you don't really want to work with. This website here is the agency I'll be shooting with tomorrow. And they have just an excellent website. Caught my eye immediately. They value photography, good design, catchy taglines, and it's just really, for a one-page site, it's really well thought out.
Very cool.
And it's very nice. This is a company I decided I didn't really want to work with. They have one stock image on the front page, proudly displaying that it's a WordPress template, and really no pictures, nothing really interesting there. It's a standard info thing. So this is one of the companies I didn't contact because the chances are they're not going to hire me anyway. They're probably just using stock images, and if I can set something up to work with this company, it's going to be a better fit, and they're going to understand things better.
Yeah, and that's the research that you have to do. Tell me, how much fun was it going and creating that list? I mean, did you just get all tingly doing it?
Um, I don't know that I got all tingly, but
Exactly.
it wasn't as bad as you'd expect.
No, no, it's not, but it's not something that we ever go, wow, I get to spend 4 hours with my ass planted in a chair and a
But
Google
the
map
thing
in
is,
front of me, but you have to do it.
but after looking at 55 websites like that other one, and then stumbling onto something like this, you go, oh damn, I really want to work with these guys.
Yep.
This is cool. This is fun stuff. Um, and that's the part that does get you at least a little tingly, because it's like, these guys really have their crap together, and maybe they just have a good web designer, but it shows they put some effort into it too. The other thing that I checked on this morning that I was really impressed with was I heard you talking on the last segment about, if somebody Googles your name and you show up in the top of the results, that's great. But if they don't know your name, they're not going to Google your name. So I went and Googled a couple of terms. Fashion photographer, Palm Beach. I show up number 2 in the local results and number 5 in the generic results overall. Advertising photographer, Palm Beach, I'm like number 6. Commercial photographer, I'm number 22. I'm at the top of the 3rd page, so that could probably use some help. And headshot photography, I'm like number 7 for headshot photographer, Palm Beach. And all of that is without blogging. I'm not real big on blogging. I have the Tumblr blog, but I don't do a whole lot with it. It's mostly Behance, Google+, Instagram, that kind of stuff. And a really big thing is using the alt text on the website. Every image on the website, has text associated with it, so Google can find it. And it's usually just one line, model in a Mercedes, something like that. But it seems to have helped enormously for someone that doesn't do a whole lot of other types of SEO.
Well,
So,
the SEO that you do, photographers always face a pretty tough challenge, and that is, we're visual, and SEO is not. SEO is based on words. That's what Google reads.
yeah.
So, as of a couple of upgrades to Google ago, they're not all that, they're all that excited about image tags. I still say you've got to use them because it's all part of the process. But bottom line, you've got to get a little text on some of these pages sometimes. I think it's where a blog comes in. The blog is constantly changing, or a journal or something that's on your page. I don't really care how Google sends them to me. If they send them to me through a blog or a journal or maybe the story of the month or whatever, I don't care as long as they get to the website. Come in the front door, the side door, the back door, I don't care.
And my thing is that I'm not telling people not to blog, but for those that have a hard time with it, it's not really the end of the world. you should work on it, but there's other things you can do if that's kind of a tough thing for you. There's other ways you can help yourself. And I found Google Plus and Flickr both having the same images with the same information there seems to really boost my organic search results.
Yeah.
Just by posting the same portfolio shots over on Google Plus, because hey, we know this, we have a copy of it.
Yes, and you get that's one thing that Google Plus is good for, is becoming trusted.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. It really does. Oh, nice. You got the map and everything there. Tell us a little bit about your studio, since you're bringing that up. Last I heard, it was 10,000 square feet, right on the bay, 2 stories.
Yes, indeed. That was the old studio.
I may have heard wrong.
So yeah, we've got almost 2,000 square feet on the second floor of a 1930s factory. We're in a pretty good location at the intersection of 2 major roads, so it's pretty easy to get to us from the interstate, and we're not in a tragically bad neighborhood. We're not buried in the back of an industrial park. So it's kind of fun. The studio's got an interesting personality with the old timber frame and factory windows and stuff like that. We don't do a lot of video here because we have trains that come through about every 2 hours or so.
Uh-huh. Sure.
So that the old building, no insulation, and a train rattling the windows from 25 feet away aren't really conducive to.
Let me ask you, how does having a studio, how has that helped you in your business? Has it been a help, or is it sort of a wash?
I would say it's helped in the commercial stuff, because I think that when I'm bidding against other people, the fact that I have a studio in a physical location adds a little bit to the credibility and professionalism that, hey, they have a brick and mortar business. It's not some guy, shooting models in his garage. So for that, I think it's been good, because it's a business with a business license. They can look us up and see that we're all legal, and it's not just some guy running a website out of mom's spare bedroom.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, at one point you were co-oping with another photographer, or is that the old studio?
That was the old studio.
How did that work out, by the way?
It worked out awesome until it didn't.
Until it didn't?
Everything was great until everybody stopped agreeing.
Yeah.
And
what happens?
Once that happened, then it went downhill fast. It was, in one sense, it was good because the overhead was a lot lower. The old studio, we had 1,100 square feet, we had 18-foot ceilings, central air, had a client area, and it was a real physical business location that people could come to. So it had that professional quality to it. But when you split the rent 5 ways, that's only $250 a month. And none of us at the time were shooting enough to need the studio every single day. We had one guy that was retired and one guy that worked nights, so they could only use the studio during the day. Then there was 2 of us that worked days, so we could only use the studio at night. And then there was a guy that shot weekends, so we really didn't interfere. There were some issues there that would take way too long to get into, and I'm sure nobody's interested. But right towards the very end, there were some bad feelings, and I ended up being the single partner left in the studio, and that was right about the time we had found this place, and the lease was coming up, and it just made more sense to close the place down and move everything up here.
You know, and I don't want to throw cold water on other people's, desire to save money and co-op it out, but after seeing this happen over and over again, one of the worst things that can happen when you're sharing space with somebody is that, God forbid, one of you becomes more successful, because then the ones who are not shooting every day, the resentment is huge. And it's not your fault you're getting hired. It's your credit that you're getting hired, but it's not your fault. There's work out there. So I have a couple little things I would throw out. Don't share space with someone who shoots the same thing you do. So if it's a fashion guy and an architecture guy, have fun. If it's two fashion guys, not going to work, guys. Not going to work. If both of you shoot models or both of you shooting lifestyle, it's just really, really hard in this business.
We were pretty lucky that way, in that we all did sort of different things. I was shooting fashion and some product. One of the other guys was shooting furniture. Somebody else was doing a lot of actor headshots. Where we ran into the issue, and this is kind of plays back to what you were just saying, is we had a couple of us that were working really hard to make this a commercial enterprise, self-sustaining and all of that. And then we had a couple of guys that really just wanted it to be the clubhouse. This was a place where the retired guy could take pretty girls to see if he could get them to take their tops off in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
And he didn't really like the idea that it was going to be a commercial entity with business hours, and anybody could walk in at any time. So that's where a lot of the friction came from. There was some bad blood between a couple of the partners too. One of them felt kind of shortchanged by the other one. And if you're, like you were talking about, if you're using the studio more, why am I paying the same amount of rent? I'm not using it as much as you are. That kind of thing. But it's if you're shooting different things and it's only maybe two people, you could probably work it out for a little while until you've built up enough that you can go out on your own. It would have been very, very hard for me to have that level of equipment and that type of operation if I was doing everything by myself right from the start. Because part of what we were doing was sharing equipment. I had some lights, the other guy had some lights, somebody had boom, we had V-flats, and the collective thing meant everybody could shoot with, $60,000, $70,000 worth of equipment, but everybody didn't have to pay for it.
Sure.
And then, any repairs and stuff came out of the group fund, and it just, everybody paid a portion of that.
Well, you mentioned lights. Let me ask you a little bit about your gear. What's in the bag? What's your lighting and camera situation these days?
My gear is crap. It's kind of like you. I pride myself on shooting with the oldest, junkiest stuff I can find. Mostly everything I shoot is with a Norman 2100 pack and 2 or 3 Norman heads.
Well, that's newer than my Norman 2000.
Maybe that's what it is. I think it is a 2000.
Is it gray? Black on the bottom, gray on the top?
Yeah, kind of. I thought it was brown and tan, but maybe, yeah. It's the same thing. It's got the old outlet style plug-in for the Pocket Wizard.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I've got that. I've got the broncolors that I've had since we saw each other last back in 2010 or so. And I'll bring those in. And I just scored an incredible deal at a thrift shop up in New York, I got a Sunpack speed light for $3.
Potato masher?
No, just it's just a manual speed light. The crappy little thing runs off four AA batteries.
Wow.
Has like 3 settings, but for $3 I was willing to gamble that it worked, and it did. So I'll hook that up to a rig and use that for some of the smaller stuff.
I bought one of those. I bought one of those Newers off of Amazon it's a little 300 watt second studio strobe. It's got a little modeling light in it, plastic, right? It's $7, and because I'm Prime, I got free shipping. I've used
That's
it
awesome.
for 3 months. It's you're not going to put it on full power and try to do a fashion shoot where you bang 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 it, right? But if I'm doing copy work or doing some of the stuff for my new Project 52 and stuff, I've got it in a little 28-inch softbox, and it works like a charm. It's $47.
Yeah. And at that price, if it's lasted 3 months and it breaks tomorrow, you throw it in the trash and you don't feel bad about it.
$47 is 1/3 what the diffuser cost in my Profoto.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's 1/8 the cost of the diffuser. For just a piece of glass. So color's been great and everything. So light is light. You gotta grabbing up some of those things is a pretty good idea.
A very, very seasoned old advertising guy here locally told me a bunch of years back. He said, buy one good light. Just one. Use that as your key light for everything. All the other lights, they can be old Normans or Alien Bees or whatever. As long as your key light is good, you can use whatever you've got laying around for all the rest of it.
So true. I'm just grinning ear to ear because that's me.
So yeah, I mean it's just, I don't know. I guess I kind of grew up that way. Do as much with as little for as long as you can, and then when you need more, try and find somebody else to pay for it. And when I had my construction business, it was the same way. My partner in the construction business wanted a lathe in the worst way, so we actually booked a job that required a lathe and made the customer pay a deposit equal to the cost of the lathe.
Yeah.
And we had one.
I've been in business working for myself, from commercial photographer through owning my own ad agency to back to being a graphic designer photographer for 30 plus years, big plus years, going into 40, and I have never had a line of credit or a bank loan. If I needed something, I either paid cash or I found a way to get a client to put the deposit. If I needed I remember when I needed my second Norman pack, I did a shoot. The deposit was something like $2,500, and I went and bought a Norman pack. I think at the time they were $1,100 or $1,200. Bought the Norman pack, bought 2 heads, and did the job, and still made money on the job. I mean that's the way we bid these things. But yeah, there's nothing worse than having one of those dry spells and still having a bank loan to pay. Oh,
yeah.
Can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
It's hard enough with a car payment and a mortgage.
It's bad enough when you're broke, but it's really bad when you're less than broke.
Yes, when you're when the negative sign has actually got neon around it. Not a good thing. Fantastic. Hey James, thanks for coming on with me, man, and chatting and sharing your work. You sent me some pictures. I'm going to stick them up on the website here for people to see. And I appreciate you giving me your time. I'm going to hit the record button right now, but you stay on so we can chat a little bit longer, all right?
Okay, awesome.
All right, thanks everybody for coming along and meeting James Eisele from out there in West Palm Beach, where the living is easy. Thanks, James.
Thank you.